Well, I'm back on the grid. As you can see, the grid behind me is going to form very, very soon for round 4 of the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy, as well as the VW Racing Cup. We've also got TCR UK, a lot of cars here competing across TCR UK as well as the Touring Car Trophy, and that is because it's all been amalgamated for the last 2 seasons. This year, the focus very much on the Touring Car Trophy, and the man who will be taking up the place to your right just there is Henry Neal, the current Touring Car Trophy champion. He's going to be taking this position. As we head back all the way down the end, you'll be able to see the VW Racing Cup cars. They'll take the same position. What happens with this race is slightly different to some other multi-class races. They all go at exactly the same time. Sometimes you get like a 10-second wait between the cars going. Not with this one. It all happens at exactly the same time. But expect the VW Racing Cup cars to be, well, not caught, but certainly maybe caught near the end of the race. They will lap a fair bit slower than the TCT cars. To the right, we have Henry Neal's car, as I was saying. That car there, the only NGTC car, the next generation touring car to be on the grid. And as we move slightly out of the way, because we want to get run over by the course car as it comes through, I don't want to get run over anyway. I'm not sure about Darren on camera. Do you want to get run over? No, he says. I'm very, very wise. It's funny you get a safety car that couldn't outrun one of the cars it's leading through. But as we go over to Henry's car, let's have a quick listen for a second. 2-litre turbo, Type R. This car was driven by his dad, Matt Neal, to race success in the British Touring Car Championship. It's an absolute beast of a car, beautiful car. Hydraulics on the jacks as well, the hydraulic jacks lifting it up. It's a very, very nice piece of kit. Further back, we have this i30N of Lewis Kent. Now, this car, I think, is one of the most beautiful looking cars, and it's got such a great look to it with their new scheme, the new colour scheme. They've gone a bit more bronze, I suppose, than they had last season. Lewis Kent looking very fast. He's second for a reason. That's because he got second in the last race, of course. That puts him in a strong position for the TCT. As we look over here as well, in third on the grid is Max Hart. As I was saying, Max Hart doesn't get any testing in this and is very much used to single-seat races, which means his braking points are totally different here at Silverstone, where he would normally brake in his single-seat racing car. That is way too late for one of these things. You need to get on the brakes a lot earlier to get that car turned in. As we go further back, Tim Docker is here. We saw Tim Docker out a couple of years ago at Alton Park, and we've seen him so far this year as well. Made his debut in 2018. He had 2 fifths at Alton Park, and he's here on the grid in 4th place for the second race of the day. As we go further back, another Cupra, another Cupra Leon, and this is driven by Dan Kirby. Very good. A bit of damage on the side there, as you can see from the earlier race. A little bit of a scuffle, shall we say, with some of the other cars. Going a little bit further back as well, as continue down the grid. Might as well, we've got a little bit of time. I can hear we're getting near to the race start, but a little bit of time. We've got Will Butler. Will Butler here making his debut in TCT, a rally driver at heart. This guy here has got incredible, incredible car control, but will it transfer onto a tarmac grid? And incredibly making up the grid just here using a lot of high-performance duct tape, we have got Darrell Wilson. This car being taped together, held together, huge front-end damage in that first race. You can see just the extent of it, huge amounts of damage, but Darrell Wilson will be wanting to get some really strong results. He's had a podium in the past, but let's just say if he can stick it together, if he can keep it together for an entire race, that would be amazing for Darrell, because he has got the pace to perform. As we work our way back down here, take a little glance, you can see some of the VW Racing Cup cars on the grid. They are all in position, a few places dividing them from the TCT. But we had such a great race earlier on. We're going to have another one, I have no doubt, because these guys, when they put it together out on track, they're mighty fast, they're mighty impressive, and they're mighty loud as well. And I'm rather excited as always. I love this form of racing. I've been involved in this about 2.5 years now, my 3rd season involved with TCR and TCT. And Scott Woodward is standing by to talk us through, along with Chaz. This one, gents, is over to you. The 4th round of the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Absolute pleasure as always. Fantastic grid walk there, just showing you some of the kit that we get to witness here in the Touring Car Trophy. And of course, it is TCR UK and the Volkswagen Racing Cup. A great mix of tin-top machinery. And Henry Neal lines up on pole position once again. And, well, we saw in that first race, Scott, he didn't get the start that he wanted, dropped back a bit, but he did a great job to get it back up there, didn't he? And Lewis Kent taking advantage of incidents around him to get that second place.
Yeah, and I think if the car's performing better for him now that we know that he had one or two issues with the brake bias, something still with a sticker, which is showing him going the wrong way. But, I mean, hopefully, if he's been able to make some further tweaks in the space between races, he can hopefully get a good start and get himself into the lead, because it would then mean that if he can do that, it will be 2 wins each for both Henry Neal and Lewis Kent. I guess the question now got to be as well is, we saw the pace that both Darrell Wilson and Dan Kirby had in race 1, and whether they can, A, stay away from each other, given what happened in that first race, but 2, how much they can try and move up a little bit from where they're starting towards Dan's starting back in about sort of 5th or 6th position, whereas Darrell's back in 7th. So a little bit of work to do, but given how close everyone is this weekend so far, I think this is how it makes it of another great race, particularly with the TCR and TCT cars, because go back in qualifying and how close everyone really was at many points in the race, it opens up the window for not necessarily the same podium that we had in the first few races that we've had so far. As for VW Cup, different story in some cases. It could be intriguing to see if Bradley Kent can pick it up 2 from 2, but we need to watch Richard Gilbert. He was the champion leader coming into the weekend, had that issue at Cops which made him stop the car and then get back going again and lost a lap, and it showed that on pace when Bradley Kent came up to try and lap him, he couldn't quite, Bradley couldn't lap him because the pace was better for Richard. So if he's able to get a good start and pick his way past the 3 Scirocco's in front, Richard Gilbert could be a good favourite for a victory in the VW Cup ranks in this race. Yeah,
definitely, and it's a very, very quick car as well, the JMR Racing machine. But, well, the other bright green car on the grid, Darrell Wilson, as we saw, I dubbed that car, just while Bryn was doing his grid walk, I dubbed it the Frankenstein's Monster, because it's bright green and it's mighty grumpy looking at the front and all stuck together as we saw. But what a great job they've done to get that car back out there. Obviously the rear bumper, what was left of it, would have just been ripped off as Bradley Kent is being moved out of the way.
Oh dear.
That's an interesting one. Very strange.
That's either to move him back into position.
Richard Gilbert saying, thank you. That's odd. I've not seen that before.
Unless it's a revert. That looks like just a reversal of the top 4 by the looks of things.
Yes, because the 79 of Paul Ivans finished ahead of. Or did he finish ahead?
No, Paul Ivans finished behind Andy Wilmot. So that means if they are switching them around, it will be.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it'll be Paul Ivans ahead of Andy Wilmot this time. So they are switching him around. So it looks as though it is going to be...
That's the most live grid swap you'll ever see, everybody. The most live done reverse grid. But fair play, though, to the marshals. I mean, I know that some series and championships may be like, oh, no, you can't push a car back on the grid or move it around. But they've just thought, stuff it, we'll do it. We'll crack on and get on with it. Let's get this touring car race underway. You can see there the gorgeous TCR cars. I go weak at the knees looking at these things from up here, and that's NGTC ex Matt Neal, now Henry Neal Honda Civic Type R looking the part as well, reflecting their current BTCC livery as well, of course. Last season it wasn't quite the same with the black and blue livery that he had, but great looking machinery all the same. And interesting to get the 3 different manufacturers within the top 3 in that race, and well, top 4 as well, all 4 manufacturers, with the Golf just finishing in 4th position there, of course having Tim Docker at the wheel of that. And then it was Dan Kirby, Will Butler and Darrell Wilson all getting their elbows out of it. To be fair, actually, Butler, he had a clean race, didn't he? Just let Kirby through near the end of that one, just to say, after you, chap, you go out in hunt of Docker in your championship fight that you're trying to get on with. But Tim held him off at the end, though, and did a good job for that 4th.
Yeah, all being terribly British again. No, after you, I insist. Please have my position. No, it should be interesting. And I always find it fascinating as well is how the ex sort of NGTC British touring car is able to stack up against these 6 TCR cars. And I guess the balance of it means that they can perform pretty well. And what I think this is hopefully doing for Henry is that it's giving him experience in an NGTC car, because I would like to think that eventually at some point going forwards, he will find himself in the British Touring Car Championship, I would imagine. And so these couple of years at the wheel of one of his father's ex sort of touring cars is giving him valuable race experience, which if he was trying to do that in the British Touring Car Championship, for me, it's what I call learning as the spotlight, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to the championship at all. What I mean is that he's not in the big cut and thrust of being amongst everyone having to be thrust into the deep end of the British touring cars. He's using this as a platform to develop his own skills as a touring car driver, so that when he's ready, if he chooses to make that step up, he's got the skills because he's been at the wheel of a touring car for the past, 2 seasons of racing it. So that's the key thing in terms of that. That's my meaning by that in many cases. So Henry's putting it all to great use, and also it's teaching things like race traffic, passing other guys, racing around other touring cars, and to set up an NGTC car, how an NGTC car feels in terms of engine, chassis, and suspension. It's all key things that he'll take on to what I'm sure will be a future touring car career, the BTCC or beyond, or wherever he chooses to go. Yeah,
indeed, and that's it. There's a great plethora of touring car series that you can get involved in once you get on that ladder and prove yourself. It's a phenomenal set of series that you can get involved with, and TCR obviously has a lot of championships all over the world, many of which are incredibly entertaining to watch, as is touring car racing. You can just see the VW Cup cars there making their way through Beckett's. But I agree with Bryn. Lewis Kent's car, that Hyundai, is wonderful to look at. It's a great... It actually looks like a very big car compared to some of the others, just because of the overall sort of box size of it, because it's a little bit higher. You can see a little bit of body roll pop from the exhaust there of Henry Neal's Civic, and again, absolutely love it. He's just doing a couple of burnouts, weaving around as he comes down towards his grid slot. Lewis Kent with the great bronze Hyundai just behind as well. And then we have the 101 machine, Max Hart. Don't forget, Max was brilliant to watch in that first race earlier on this afternoon. This is the penultimate race of the day here at Silverstone. Behind this one, we will have the BRSCC Club Sport Trophy featuring the City Car Cup with 45 minutes to go. But, well, I think Darrell Wilson will be happy that this one won't be 45 minutes, because that car looks like it's done around with Frank Bruno at the moment. Cause that's,
or several.
Well, yes, yeah.
And this is the patch up and the bandages to make sure it heals a bit better.
Yeah, look at it. It just looks very grumpy in the background, doesn't it? But it looks aggressive still. That Astra is a really good-looking car, and he's directly target fixed on Dan Kirby ahead, I'm sure. The
tape over the head that makes it look a pirate. It's like someone who's lost an eye with like a patch over it. Like you can see, it's kind of like he's battle scarred, and he's been in some kind of a war with that one. But he's good to see him back out on the grid anyway, and he will be hoping to put up a good result. And that's unfortunate. Bradley Kent now.
Now, I thought there was an issue with that car before, and it seems quite odd that there now actually is.
Yeah, there definitely is one now, unfortunately. So he won't take the start, I'm afraid. So we were down one TCR car, but it looks as though I think we're about to get underway.
Red lights are about to come on then for the second race of the day here in the Touring Car Trophy. And they're away already. And it looked like a very strong start for Henry Neal, although Lewis Kent has flown, and Henry Neal again hasn't got away, and neither has Butler. Neal's lost a spot off the start. Max Hart is right behind him as they go through turn one. Butler gets away eventually. The lights are out, mate. But into fourth place now, Tim Docker, but Max Hart all over the back of Henry Neal. It just seems like Henry has a bit of trouble getting that car off the line in comparison to the TCR cars around it. Lewis Kent then leads them. Darrell Wilson has jumped Tim Docker and Dan Kirby already, who are side by side out of Beckett's. Great start from Darrell Wilson. He did this in race one as well. And that green car behind them, no, it is not the actual TCR Golf, even though you could definitely mistake it for it. It's a VW Cup car with the TCR kit there. That is Richard Gilbert, the number 2. Look at Henry Neal already, though, very aggressive here. Richard Gilbert, a very comprehensive lead in the VW Cup at the moment, at the end of this first lap, and he'll want to extend that even further after his issue in the first race. But here we go then, out of Luffield and through Woodcote for the first time. Lewis Kent leading the way, Henry Neal second, then it's Max Hart in third. They sound phenomenal as they come past. Dan Kirby is now ahead of Darrell Wilson, who's going slowly. Darrell Wilson, I'm not sure whether he had an issue out of Luffield, but he's going very slowly in comparison down the straight. You can see there Docker just getting away from him. Be interesting to see what happens. It's Gilbert leading the VWs from Wilmot, Ivans, and then Butler is just behind. Henry Neal and Max Hart right together as they go towards Beckett's. Max I thought he was looking down the inside there, doesn't quite get it done, tucks it in for the second part of the corner. But battle commences straight away here, Scott, instantly on it now as Henry Neal tries to recover once again. Not only is this incentive for Lewis Kent to put his foot down, it's also incentive for Max Hart to try and get his best result of the season. He's had 3 third places so far this year. He wants to try and improve it as Henry Neal makes a small dive to... that was almost a half... It's possibly inspective look up the inside of Lewis Kent and half
kind of defensive move there to put off Max Hart there.
Gilbert
Max is going round.
Gilbert's had another issue on the exit of Beckett's. The car has stopped on the straight. I've just seen it on the CCTV camera. I thought it was Wilson.
Yeah, there it
is. There it is. Oh no, not again. I was talking to Mark Wakefield earlier this morning, who was saying that, actually it was yesterday, that he wasn't too pleased, obviously, that the car had issues and he wasn't on the pace in qualifying, and now I'm afraid it seems like they've got further issues. It's got going again, so turn it off and on again. Looks like Darrell Wilson's back up to full racing pace as well, which is nice, so we've not lost him. He's all over the back of Docker at the moment. Speaking of all over the back of, Max Hart. He's certainly he's got heart in this race. Dan Kirby, fastest lap, and look at this, trying to get the cutback on Henry Neal. That's great stuff from Max Hart in the 101. St. Leon gives him a tap. I think Henry just closed the gap down a little bit there. Max is definitely not scared to get his elbows out and get involved. Side by side they go down towards Brooklands again. He comes over a bit, says, go on, try it, mate. He's all over him. We've got Joyce in the background, and look at Dan Kirby behind them already. He's making waves here. What a great battle we've had between those pair, and he's still trying to push. All of this time, though, Lewis Kent will be happy because he'll be trying to get away, and that gap will naturally be extending as these guys battle. But Dan Kirby's in on this now as well, following his fellow Seat Leon Cooper. He's saying, well, I'm not going to follow you out there, mate. That's not a great line. Goes around the outside of Woodcote, gets alongside. Down the straight they go. You've got to think with that run, he might be out in front of him by the time they get to Copse. Let's have a look. They're still side by side, and no. Max Hart says, not in your life. I've got this inside line, and I'm going to carry on, mate. Dan Kirby holds on to 4th position, though. But great racing already. But now that's relinquished the gap back to Henry Neal. That's unleashed him, I should say, to go and chase after Lewis Kent. 5th place is still Docker. Then we've got Wilson and Butler. Wilmot leads the Golfs now. Sorry, the Volkswagens, apologies. Then it's Ivans. Ironically, he's in a Scirocco as well. Olden is 3rd in class. Then it's Gilbert. Joyce is back in the pit lane. And as seen earlier, Bradley Kent did not start the race, I'm afraid. But now, Max Hart and Dan Kirby both looking very feisty in these Seat Leon Cupras. Good looking and good sounding cars as well. But you've got to think now, are we going to see the same again from Henry Neal here, Scott? He's going after Lewis Kent, and he is on a charge. He was actually 4/10 slower last time around. Let's see what the difference is this time as they cross the line. 59.6 and 59.5. Fastest lap of the race for Henry Neal that time round. So he's taking tenths out of him at the moment, Scott.
He is. Just showing just how much pace is in that NGTC touring car. There is Tim Docker. He's been racing that car in Brit car before he chose to come back to TCR UK. So he's definitely got plenty of mileage in that car. But it's a shorter 20-minute sprint races compared to the longer endurance races that he's been using it in before. As we see, Max Hart still now being pressured by his fellow Cupra runner in Dan Kirby, who momentarily before they came through set the fastest lap was Richard Gilbert. When he got the car going again and completed a lap, but it looks as though, I'm afraid, that he's trying to restart the engine, but there's nobody home, so I'm afraid
he's exercising his camouflage there on the grass.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Very good point. He's parking a green car on green grass, so it seems to be helping him out there. Meanwhile, this is our scrap now for the lead in the VW Cup, because we've now got Andy Wilmot, former BTCC runner himself, and one half of the Trade Price Class Racing outfit. The other half is just there, behind Max Hart, Dan Kirby. And he's now heading Paul Ivans at the moment, and he's ahead of Jeff Alden, who didn't get out in first on because he had an incident in qualifying. I remember I did see the car at the end of yesterday. He was looking a little bit worse aware, but he managed to get him out today, which is good to see. That's not good to see, unfortunately. Richard Gilbert, I'm afraid, that's going to make major damage to his championship lead, and that is Russell Joyce. Is it?
No,
that's 19. That's 19. So that's Jeff Alden. My apologies. So he's actually switched cars. So he's got a different Scirocco here he's in, rather than the Golf he was in at the start of the weekend. So he's in a different car now, which I think that the team have been able to provide him with so he can get back out there. And he's running at the moment in 3rd place in VW Cup, so he will be able to pick up a podium if he holds on.
Whoa, we've got a massive moment of Dan Kirby just watching out the window, who's completely sideways around Brooklands. Hart, by the way, did the fastest lap of the race last time round by 0.010 of a second over Henry Neal's current fastest lap. But Henry is really catching the race leader Lewis Kent, and Hart is catching Neal now with Kirby. Well, he's launching it at the scenery by the look of it, because it honestly came into view sideways in Brooklands, really trying. Dan Kirby, obviously, very experienced when it comes to getting behind the wheel of a race car, but yeah, he's certainly putting his drift on there. This is the battle in the VW class. 2 race leaders. These pair were inseparable in the first race as well, as it's Wilmot leading Ivans. And they're both doing a fine job in those 2 Scirocco's. Great to see, like I said earlier. Awesome to see the Scirocco's still racing. I love these cars. Really good looking bits of kit. And Joyce is repeating his race 1 antics, where he does a lap and then comes in, and does a lap and comes in, I'm afraid. So maybe some electrical issue or some sort of engine-related issue with that car not quite behaving itself. Henry Neal did another fastest lap last time round, 59.171, 59.2 personal best from Max Hart. So they're getting quicker and quicker as the race goes on. We're nearly 7 minutes in now, Scott, and they're just improving all the time.
Yeah, that'll be possibly the amount of rubber that's kept on being laid down, I'm sure, as the race has been going on, of course, throughout the day. And of course, that means that by the end of the day, you get a much grippier track because obviously it's been bone dry all day in beautiful sunny weather conditions. That the amount of rubber on the track now must be a lot more in terms of better lap times this time by. And Henry Neal, you can sense, is starting to try and put the pressure onto Lewis Kent this time by.
He had a mega run down the straight then. I thought he was going to get it done, but the change of direction there from that TCR Hyundai from Lewis Kent, it just dived into Copse. It looked great. And another fastest lap last time round for Henry Neal, so he's really on it now. But the cars behind are not going away.
That you can tell why tell that that's a car that's been developed by two kings of touring car racing, Gabriele Tarquini and Alain Menu. They were the two drivers which they brought on board to develop that car when it was originally launched, and it's such a great car. And Hyundai have really announced themselves into motorsport here, and Lewis Kent is certainly making the most of this fantastic bit of kit as he puts a lap on Jeff Alden. Is still Jeff Alden quickly get out of the way. No, I'm not getting involved in any of this with these TCR cars. I'm backing off and letting them through. So they come out through Luffield. And
we've got Richard again. We've got Gilbert slow again on the straight. The car's almost at no revs. It's just come past the commentary box. The top four still right together. Alden following them around, and it's actually not bodywork hanging off the side of it. It's just part of the vinyl from the design of the car, I'm afraid. It's just peeled back, so not as much airtime for one of the sponsors at the side of the car. We've got Wilson and Butler, by the way, a little bit further back from this. Docker's all on his own. We've got Wilson and Butler, another 4.8 seconds back from Docker, but they're right together at the moment. Only 7/10 of a second separating them. There's 6/10 separating Lewis Kent and Henry Neal, who goes a bit deep into Beckett's. Still pushing hard though. That Civic seems to have really good run off the corner and great straight line speed. That seems to be the main difference here between these TCR cars and that NGTC car. It's really pokey in a straight line. You can see the heat haze coming out the side of it. It's like a steam train making its way down the straight. Deep on the brakes, the nose dives in as well. It's a true touring car. I absolutely adore the thing, as you can tell. I'm not going to shut up about it for a week. My poor missus. Lewis Kent, though, that's a car I adore even more, that Hyundai. I know I shouldn't be biased as a commentator, but I'm hoping Lewis Kent can get one of the wins here. But Henry Neal, he's well on his way in terms of pace to get 2 out of 2, as well as pole position. But we'll have to see how the battle goes. At the moment, though, we've got Kirby now ahead of Hart, apparently.
I think there's a bit of a glitch in his there's a bit of a warning, so there's 3 or 4 cars that still don't seem to have fully working transponders. Also to mention as well is that you say about Henry Neal possibly getting second place. If he keeps getting warnings like getting a black and white flag for track limits, he might be there for much longer. So, but just how much you can see how much Henry Neal tries to carry as much speed as he can through the corner. You can see just how the way it leans on its suspension just through Beckett's as he comes onto the Wellington straight. But I think what's clear is that it's I think before at Alton Park it was more of a case of once Lewis got into the lead, it was a case of Henry Neal trying to make up for a bit of a not so good qualifying or first race in many cases, whereas this time you can see that Lewis has got genuine pace, and not say he never did, but he's got genuine pace in this Hyundai now.
Now they've figured out the trick with the brake bias as well.
Yeah, and they seem to got the car on a good rhythm. He's able to at least keep on actual genuine pace alone Henry Neal at bay, and also Max Hart, if I'm correct, he's come up from single seaters up into TCR for the first time, and making the most of that single-seater experience where it's mostly, I guess, depending on what car you run, it's mostly mechanical grip you have to work with.
Yeah, definitely.
So making the most of that. And Dan Kirby's not too far away either. About the top 4 are separated by 2.6 seconds. And lap time-wise, they're all very evenly matched between the lap time delta between all 4 of them. That 2/10 as Henry Neal goes way too deep into Beckett to try and hold on.
He was actually, the camera just panned around very quickly there because Gilbert had gone off just in front of them at Beckett's. I heard some tyre squeal and I thought, who was that? But Kent went deep. It looked like he'd locked up as well, but Gilbert had just gone off just before that as well. So luckily, they've avoided it. You can see him in the background there. But like you say, Lewis Kent and Max Hart coming from single seaters, he's definitely in a bit of different scenery here, but he's doing a smashing job of it, to be honest. And they're not easy cars to get used to. As we've got an issue there. That is our VW Cup leader.
That's either a puncture or that's a loose wheel.
It was wobbling around a lot, wasn't it? I think it's just a puncture. Yeah, it's just the tyre going around the edge of the rim.
Yeah, it looks like. Yeah, you're right. It is a puncture. So that now brings it.
Neal round the outside into Cobbs. That caught us both off guard there. Runs a bit wide. That's track limits again. Not that I'm trying to bring it up and get him in trouble. Lewis Kent is flashing the lights desperately, saying, please get out of the way, I'm coming through. Right, I'm going to go down the inside, stuff it. We need to get on with this. onto the brakes into Beckett. It's 8.5 minutes to go, but look at this now, the top 4. Now those two have had that little coming together, almost, on the exit of Copse, after Neil went for the move. This is what we were saying before in the MX-5s and in the Fiestas as well, when it was so close. You go for a move, if it hinders the pair of you, you've got to then think about the cars behind who can catch you up. Henry Neal looks to the inside. He's been doing this all race. He takes a very early turn in for Brooklands, gets the car straightened up on the brakes, the nose dives to the ground, and then he chucks it in. And that Civic just seems to really cope with that very well.
I think he's deploying a bit of a Schumacher-esque strategy. I think he's cleaning up that side of the track, so when he does eventually have to try and make a move up the inside line, it's not the dirty part of the circuit. He's not coming off the line to make that happen. He's actually trying to clean it up.
Very true.
So when he is ready to make that move, he goes up the inside. He's not finding himself out of control and going through. So that's it's a possibility. Either that or he possibly is just doing it to try and put Lewis Kent off, or a combination of both. Because but either way, Henry Neal is certainly doing a grand job to keep up with it. But Lewis Kent equally, with that Hyundai, looking to try and take an outright win here. But you also look behind. These two Cupras behind, they're not their business have finished yet, and they've all closed up now to the gap where the top 4 are separated by 1.4 seconds. And Max Hart, if he keeps playing his cards right in this way, so we've got into the second half of the race with 7.5 minutes to go, he might get more than a third place here if he plays it right.
Yeah, and just looking out the window, Gilbert has finally decided to bring that car in, I'm afraid, so more issues for it. That's a real shame to see that as well. But this battle for the top 4 is phenomenal. I mean, Dan Kirby's dropped off a little bit compared to the previous lap, but it's not too much, to be honest. He was actually 2/10 quicker than Hart last time round, but it just shows you how much the front 2 have checked up. So, round again to start, the 14th lap of the race, completing lap 13. Sounds phenomenal as they go past once again. But Dan Kirby there with all the lights ablaze in that gorgeous gold-wrapped car. It looks phenomenal. There you go. You can see the beautiful shine on it. It looks absolutely brilliant.
It really is. It's glinting in the sunshine, isn't it? It's a typical term to use for gold to be glinting, but it absolutely is. And it turns in through this time, and Neil was getting very close under braking that time. You can tell he's pushing as hard as he dares now, but Max Hart is doing everything he can to stay with him. So these top 3 very evenly matched in terms of pace and back and forth. They're going to come up to put a lap on Jeff Alden again in his Scirocco. He will stay well out of the way this time by, and this time again, all aiming for the apex as they try to break as straight a line as possible.
Watch Max Hart here, because Max is all over Henry. He's actually trying to go round to his left-hand side. Now he's going to get a deeper exit on here, try and get the cutback, get a good run down the straight. But as I said before, that Civic has got some legs in a straight line. But all this time now, if he's trying to distract Henry, I think Henry had just a bit of a run wide out of Brooklands that just compromised him slightly. I think that we're going to see Max Hart try and make a move. He's been very, very exciting to watch. The bonnet was rattling a little bit there as he got towards Copse. That could be something to keep an eye on. You don't want that. We saw it on Alden's car, but not quite to that extent. Dan Kirby all the time just watching this, hoping that his fellow Cupra driver can get a move done, but so far it's just proved to be the start that has been the hindrance for Henry Neal. Further back from this, by the way, Docker is still 5th, with Butler behind him, but it looks like Wilson has dropped down on that previous lap, I'm afraid, 1:06.6, so he's had an issue somewhere. Try and catch up with that in a little moment, because we've still got 5 minutes to go of these 4. They're not quite parading at the moment. They're all, like I said before, the bungee cord is out, and it's very much tying the 4 of them together. It's fantastic, and Lewis Kent's doing a great job at holding the pace. Still doing 59s. He did a 59.4 last time. Let's see what this one is. 59.4, 59.1, fastest lap of the race for Henry Neal. So that time round, he's thought, right, I'm not going to focus on Max Hart. I'm just going to get on with it, and let's try and go forward. He's really pushing now, and Wilson is, yeah, it seems like he's dropping down the order further and further, I'm afraid. He's actually been in the pits. That was why. Yeah, he pitted last time round. He's actually still crossing the line, but he's dropped away a bit. There's Dan Kirby in 4th place. Oh, Max Hart's gone wide. Manages to recuperate quite quickly, though, but yeah, Henry Neal, you can tell visually now, he has set his sights on the back of that Hyundai. Watch his line as he goes into here, though. He turns in a lot earlier. Ready? Gets it turned in about there, dives it down on the brakes, gets it slowed up in a bit more of a straight line, and maybe that's just helping because of how that car handles. Slightly different in terms of the TCR cars compared to the NGTC machine, and it does seem a lot lower to the ground, but I think that's more of a visual thing from the Hyundai, because it's quite a tall car in comparison. The Civic's quite sort of low and sleek. It's a great shape. I certainly prefer it over the newer one, let me say that. But in terms of Kirby and Hart, obviously still the other way around at the moment, but they're holding station and they're doing a good job, and so too is Docker. I mean, he's 5th at the moment, still holding ahead of Butler. In terms of the lap times, though, Butler was actually 8 tenths faster. He's just done his fastest lap of the race in the number 70 Seat Leon Cupra. In the VW Cup, it's Ivans and Olden's actually second just by staying out there. Olden's actually going to get some good championship points out of this. Wilson is behind them, and then Wilmot unfortunately still in the pits. So we've lost most of the VWs. We've lost Gilbert, Joyce and Kent from that. So if you finish, you're going to get some good championship points. But here again is Henry Neal very close to the back of Lewis Kent this time round. 3 minutes to go here, Scott, and this is getting spicy.
Just whilst we're looking at that, I was mentioning Richard Gilbert's attempts to get back on and off the circuit and sort of stopping and starting. It appears to have attracted the ire of the clerk of the course because they have given a black and orange flag, I think, for that. So I think he's gone back out on circuit, but I think he possibly might have to come back in, unless he already has come back in and served that, in which case he'll carry on towards the end. It seems to know whatever issue was, it seems as though he's back out and looking okay. So 3 minutes to go then in this second Dunlop Touring Car Trophy and TCR race with the VW Cup as well. Still Max Hart holding on to third place. At the moment, it's going to be a clean sweep at this rate of the entire season of the same 3 drivers on the podium, because it's still Ken from Neil and then Max Hart in third place at the moment, unless Dan Kirby can do anything about that. And to be fair, Hart and Kirby are very evenly matched right now, with the two cars in front of them are lapping at least 3 or 4 tenths quicker than the 2 cars behind. And as the Cooper of Max Hart flashes the headlights, Richard Gilbert stays way out of the way after he's gone back out of the pits, I presume to solve whatever the black and orange flag issue was.
Well, if he seems to have slowed up there, but I'm not sure whether he's just getting out of the way or whether it's broken down again.
I think no, he was more getting out of the way.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Okay, so that said, he's going still quite slowly through Brooklands, just looking out of our window. So just over 2 minutes to go then. So we're going to get looking at that time, probably this rate, maybe 3 more laps actually, because look at the time, they came across with 2 minutes 3 to go, and it's a 59-second lap time for these touring cars. So we might just get 3 more laps, including this one, I reckon, and 3 more laps for Lewis Kent to hold on and to resist the onslaught of this constant pressure from Henry Neal as they come in. Jeff Alden gets another lap put on him as he comes through. Beckett's completely staying out of the way as best he can.
Still second in class though, so he'll just be thinking, well, points. That was close from Max Hart.
Yeah.
Max has to blend in a little bit with the grass. He's flashing his lights to the cars ahead. We've had a big lock-up from Docker and from Butler going into Beckett's. The two of them I've just watched it on the CCTV. They've just had a right moment going in there. It was like Butler had that much target fixation. He just followed the car in front, pretty much off the circuit and then back on. But there is Henry Neal, and there, just ahead of him, is Lewis Kent. And that gap, it was, 50 thousandths of a second different last time? Let's see what it is this time. Henry obviously gains it back on the straights and under brakes, a personal best from Lewis Kent, so he is right on the money now. He's 1/10 of a second off the fastest lap of the race, set by Henry Neal a few laps ago as well. So he's returned the favour at the moment, and he's opening it back up. Docker, like I said, still 5th, just ahead of Butler, 1.4 seconds separating them, but this is the battle for the lead with 46 seconds to go. It's going to be interesting now to see whether we get another lap. Look at that, Henry Neal goes deep into Beckett's, tries to get the run on the exit, and you can see that actually Lewis Kent runs a lot wider on the exit despite having the earlier apex there. It's a bit of 6 of one, half dozen the other. In the background, Max Hart, as we all know, flashing your lights gives you a 15 extra brake horsepower, so Max is definitely trying to exercise that at the moment. But he's just trying to put them off any way that he can, and that's the thing, you just got to get the mind games out at this point, because he's 1.9 seconds off the back of Neal. We've got 14 seconds to go as he leans over and looks for the checkered flag. Last lap board just gone out now.
Board, yeah.
Okay, so we've got one more attempt then for Henry Neal. The lap times last time round, Neal was 0.2 of a second quicker. So what do you reckon, Scott? Do you reckon Hart will put him off enough with the flashing lights?
Well, I think given Henry Neal the fact that he's learnt all his tricks from Matt Neal, probably has every touring car trick in the book, I'd imagine possibly not.
Yeah.
But even so, he'll give it, as the Australians say, he'll give it a red hot go as he comes up towards Beckett's for the last time. Now, realistically, he needs a super exit here from Beckett's to line himself up, because if he's going to make the move, truthfully, it's going to have to be in Brooklands, and all that sort of effort goes to the inside line, whether he's been cleaning up the track or not. I have a feeling as we go into the last couple of corners, Chaz, I think he's too far back. I think Lewis has possibly got this.
Yeah, he'll have to take something pretty major from Henry Neal to get it done here. He does look down the inside, as he has been doing all race, but Lewis Kent goes through Brooklands, keeps it nice and composed, a little bit wider than normal into Luffield on the brakes. Henry Neal trying to keep it tucked in there, but out of Luffield for the final time, through Woodcote. Foot down hard, trust me, that Civic's going to be catching you to the line, but it's going to be Lewis Kent that takes round 4 of the championship here in the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy. Great performance, great defence from Henry Neal, awesome pressure. Max Hart makes it a podium. Dan Kirby recovers from that earlier first race incident to finish 4th, and Tim Docker is going to come across the line in 5th, just ahead of Will Butler, who was closing him down there at the very end. Great performance by that Golf there, another top 5 finish for him. Butler, great on his debut. Wilson does cross the line behind them, but he's a couple of laps down, 2 laps down on those cars. And we just wait for Paul Ivans in the number 79 machine to make his way round. We've got Alden just coming across the line now. He's going to be second in the VW Cup. There he is. And Ivans is just coming into the last corner. That's how much of a lead he had in that class. Gilbert is still out on track, though. Still trying to make the Volkswagen work. I know the car's green, but I imagine none of the dash lights on the dash are. He's actually going to... No, he is going to complete the lap. But here is your VW Cup class winner, everybody. Paul Ivans takes the victory. Very well deserved there. And, well, it just shows it was survival of the fittest out there, Scott. But what a great second race and what a win from Lewis Kent.
Absolutely. Just one thing to mention also is that the fact that Richard Gilbert kept going, unless the stewards want to have a word with him about his sort of on and off start of the engine, incredibly, it still gives him third, which he still gets third place points, which actually could be going to the next couple of rounds if it's all trouble free for the next ones. That could be a saving grace for his championship chances, possibly that third place. It's a key thing. But yeah, I have to say, pretty much flawless drive from Lewis Kent. I can't fault it, truth to be honest. But at the same time, I can't really fault Henry Neal either. The two of them are very evenly matched, back and forth, equal on pace, and sort of closing up the gap a little bit, pulling out by a couple of tenths, back in a couple of tenths, just as good as each other. And I think that if the two of them end up in a touring car series together once more, I think we could possibly see more of the same. And continuing the adventures of Richard Gilbert, I'm afraid that his car has now stopped on the exit of Beckett's once again, I think. So, but he's got it going again, so there he goes. But I think the squad have got definitely some work to try and fix that. But finishing order then, Lewis Kent, who picks up the victory then, makes it once more, like it was at Alton Park, a win each for Lewis Kent and Henry Neal. Max Hart once more keeps up that consistent run of third places. That's 4 on the bounce now he's had at all 4 races. Dan Kirby with 4th position. Tim Docker picks up an excellent 5th. And William Butler picks up 6th in his Cupra. Then it's Paul Ivans, your VW Cup winner, from Darrell Wilson in 8th position overall. Jeffrey Alden picked up 9th overall and 2nd in VW. So despite everything that went on for him, Richard Gilbert does indeed collect 3rd in the VW Cup.
And he's made it back to the pits,
which is good to see. And then the last couple of drivers that we'll have are going to be Andy Wilmot, who fortunately had that puncture, Russell Joyce, who for some reason retired after 3 laps, and Bradley Kent, sadly, who didn't even make the start, unfortunately. He pulled off on the formation lap.
And after taking a win earlier in the day as well, nightmare of a contrast for him, isn't it?
But it makes things very interesting for next rounds coming up, which I believe are at Donington, so very interesting stuff. But there is the top 3. There's Mickey Butler from Dunlop, just having a bit of a check of the tyre pressure to see what the Dunlop rubber is like.
Oh, I love Henry Neal's lid, by the way, the camo lid. That looks phenomenal.
Actually,
I know I've used the word phenomenal a lot today. I do apologise, but that really does look good. But any second now, though, I believe, Scott, we will be passing down to Bryn. But that was an epic battle between the two of them. They may not have been swapping places every lap, but it was just the times. They were just trading lap times, weren't they?
Absolutely. So I think seeing as Lewis looked pretty much prepared, I'm going to hand down to Bryn to have a chat with our top 3 in both TCR, TCT and VW Cup.
Yeah, thanks very much, gents. I mean, what a race that was. Lewis Kent really showing maturity he's managed to garner over the last couple of years.
Underneath. It's underneath, Bryn. It's underneath. The button's on the bottom of it.
I was going to say, it looks as though either it's possibly his battery's run out or they've forgotten to switch it back on again. But apologies for the mishap there with Bryn's microphone. Hopefully it'll be all sorted. The Union Jack flag says it's pointed. It's drooped in the wind, which is unfortunate. But no, it's we should be able to hear from the shot. So
he should get Richard Gilbert on that microphone. He's used to turning things on and off again after that race.
Oh, I don't want to say things like that. I'll leave that to you on that side. At least if Stuart Lyons come after away, it's probably going to be you after that.
Yeah.
After saying that, so we should be good now. So we'll try again with Bryn, who's with our touring car trophy race winner, Lewis Kent.
Thank you very much, gents. It wasn't me. My mic was on. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to blame everybody else. I'm going to take no blame whatsoever. Lewis, that was a race, I think. It was a shame because the build-up I gave to just before I came to you was, I think, quite incredible. That race showed the maturity, I think, that you've managed to gather over the last couple of years, and I think particularly the last couple of laps. Henry was really gaining on you. You know, he was knocking out a tenth, and then you put in a lap that gave you a 2/10 lead over that to kind of re-establish the distance.
Yeah, it's the starts again. I'm starting to get the starts quite well now. But yeah, you know, again, huge thanks to all the boys and everyone back at the shop. Thanks to all the sponsors as well. You know, Blockcoin, without them lot, wouldn't be able to do this. But racing was awesome. We got a good start, as I said. Pulled a little bit of a gap. We had a bit of a trouble. I think Andy Wilmot may have had a puncture halfway through, and we kind of got caught up as we came around to lap him. But yeah, we're just able to start pulling that gap and get out a little bit further every lap. And yeah, at the end I just thought I had to put in one good lap just to pull a gap, just to make myself safe. And last couple of corners played it safe and played it nice and easy, and just tried to keep it on the track.
So my big question for you really is, at the start of the season, although it's been a bit of a strange season, you were looking only at TCR UK. Your focus was, I want to be TCR UK champion. You could be TCT champion as well, and that means you could be leading over an NGTC car.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to go for it as well. It's not our main priority. Obviously TCR is first up, but we'll have to see how it goes. You know, Donington's a strong circuit for me. I really do like Donington, but so does Henry. Henry's very fast around there from last year, and yeah, we're just gonna have to see how it goes from that point of view.
Swapping results, you two. It's been fantastic. Well done.
Yeah, thank you very much.
There we have it, Lewis Kent, the race winner. What a win that was. He really held that one very, very tightly. I'm just going to try and find Henry Neal. Henry Neal's over to this side over here, but we might go to the VW Racing Cup, actually. We can get a word from the race winner, from Paul Evans, because Paul had, here he comes now. It was a really strong result. We should really get a word from the race winner from the VW Racing. That was, it was a strong performance from you as well.
It was good. It was a brilliant victory. It's great to win, but there wasn't a great deal of competition to begin with. That was my teammate Andy. We were having a good battle. We were closing in, and then going round Cops, I noticed he slowed and the back wobbled, and didn't think much of it until we came onto the Wellington Straight, and I could see, well, there's something coming off the back. It looked like fluid, and then just overtook him. It was an easy race from there, to be honest with you. Just had to keep it going. The last 3 laps, the tyres were going off, but no. It is what it is. It's a win. Just need a bit more competition, more people carrying on running.
Well, let's just hope. I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? This year is very, very tricky, particularly with sponsorship, people finding the time and the ability to actually get out and race. Let's hope 2021 brings full grids and close contact racing.
No, that's great, but no, thank you very much.
Right. Well done, well done. They are race winner from VW Racing Cup as well. We could speak to Henry Neal. I'm pretty sure he would say that he had a good race. You know, it was good to stick it on second. I'd love to speak to Max again as well, because he's been so consistent. This is a guy who is not really used to this form of racing, but here he is. He's done such a really good job in this car. We're going to be going for the Club Sport Trophy and the City Car Cup as well. That's going to be happening very soon. In fact, we might not have a time. Let's quickly grab a very quick second, a quick chat from Max. Max, going into this, you know, you were saying you had a few problems, no testing with the car, but you've had podiums galore, so it's getting there, isn't it? And you showed on a couple of your laps that you were lapping faster at times than the NGTC car.
Yeah, exactly. I just need more time to see. I feel like towards the start of the race there, I was really catching the lads. They had pulled a small gap, but I managed to pull the gap back, and I even had a few goes on Henry there around the outside and up the inside, and then we came and had contact coming out with maggots there. But yeah, I just need more time in the car. No testing obviously didn't help, so I'm looking forward to the next round where I'll get a bit of testing before the race, and hopefully I'll be right up there with the lads this time.
Is that the plan? Get out there, get in the car, get some seat time, get used to it?
Yeah, that's exactly it, yeah. Because I really was struggling in race 1, and if I had started way up I would have kind of got more of a feel, because when you're driving with the fast lads you get more to their pace, so hopefully I can do that. I just want to say a big thanks to all my sponsors. Like, without them I wouldn't be able to be here, so a big thanks to them.
We love the fact you're here. It's fantastic to see you out on track. Well done.
Thanks very much, Ben.
Great stuff there, Max Hart. A brilliant podium. 2 threes, 2 thirds, 2 third places. That's what I'm trying to say on the podium there. And if we have a look at the trophies, they're lined up right now because of COVID-19, because of the bizarre way the world is right now. Trophies are on the floor. They will collect them later on. They'll take their champagne home, and I'm sure they'll keep it to themselves. Shucks, there you go. But we are ready for the final race of the day here from Silverstone, from the National Circuit. We've got the Club Sport Trophy and City Car Cup as well. Quite an unusual grid, this one, and I think it's going to be one heck of a race, so stay tuned for it. To talk you through, as always, we've got Scott. He's next to Chaz. Over to you guys for the City Car Cup and the Club Sport Trophy.